Hello, this is Dr. Young, and I'm going to go over your assignments for this week. For your discussion, you're going to talk about working in teams. Excuse me. I'm a little congested. I apologize ahead of time. I'm going to probably have a little bit of hoarseness in my voice. So what you're going to do is talk about a time when you worked in teams, whether in your workplace or outside. And actually, let me scroll down here, because what I'm doing now is I'm posting this. Sorry, not that. Your assignment with comments, so in bold, just to try to expand on what your assignment instructions are. Just kind of going into a little bit more detail. I don't know. Hopefully, you'll find that helpful. I don't want to tell you exactly what to write, but I do want to kind of point you in a direction here. So make sure you read these. And again, I'm just going to go over this. Talk about, it can be extracurricular activities if you don't have a specific experience from work. If you're a member of a club or any other organization, you might be any kind of extracurricular activity where you've led a project, or led other people towards a certain goal, and you had to complete, work it together to reach that goal. That'll work too. Cover the advantages and disadvantages of working in teams. Don't make sure that you give each equal time. Talk about tie concepts in your text regarding teamwork to your actual experience. For number 3, as far as learning, how your team learned and moved forward with the process. Talk about learning styles of members. You can talk about the stages of team building and how that played out. What was your experience as it relates to your organization's culture? Make sure to read about organizational culture. That's a very sometimes that can be seem intangible, but you have companies where that are more laid back, that are more work in a more collaborative can't even speak today collaborative environment where your suggestions are put out, and teams come together and kind of decide which ones are better. Other ones are it's very formal. There's a chain of command. I'm trying to get you to just think about how it is with your organization or just the team. I mean, you might have people that come together as a team, and you've got a very definitive leader, and you have others that are just wanting to do it's kind of the mentality of assign me a part and I'll do it, or you might have several members that want to lead, and you have a lot of high conflict, high tension kind of situation. You might have people, no one wants to be the leader, and no one seems to want to guide the process, and you find your team is in disarray and just kind of out there not knowing what they're supposed, each member is not knowing what they're supposed to do. I mean, you see where I'm going here. You've got lots of different possibilities, and I want you to identify how it was with your team and be very specific about the culture of your team. And then you can even talk, and what you even talk about, like how your team was, the culture within your team dynamic, and then compare that to the overall organization. And even if it's something that's not, I don't know, let's say that you could even be a member of a church, and you in a certain group, and that team dynamic is completely different than the way the whole church is run, for example. And I'm just using that as one example. That isn't, you don't have to obviously, or a club or any situation where you're taking a leadership type of position, PTA member, PTA. I mean, that's just another. You might be working on a project at your, a school, for example, and then you've got this small team and you've got a bigger, the overall culture of the school administration, for example, and just things you can kind of compare. So what I'm doing right now is brainstorming through possibilities. But you might have a great example that you want to use, please use it. I get so many different types of situations, and that's what I want to see. A lot of variety is good. Especially when I'm reading, these discussions, and I don't want to see the same thing over and over, so, just kind of take some time to reflect on a good example to use here. So, where am I at here? I just lost my place, right? Yeah, talk about number 5, assume you are the leader and know what you now know about leading teams. So, you're going to talk about how you would use both formal and informal communication processes to communicate with your team members. Make sure to discuss both methods and talk about, so which one do you prefer? And again, some people respond better to formal and some people respond better to informal. I think it just depends, and that goes back to your culture. Identify your culture first, and then you can talk about, and then you'll probably be able to think through what's more appropriate. How would you facilitate moving your team through the stages of team development? So you're the leader. Since you are the leader, you might be kind of mediating this process. You might need to check and see if it's working and progressing as it should. So talk about each stage and talk about how you would guide your team members through each stage. And what if your team were a global one? Now this is obviously going to provide more obstacles. If it's spread out throughout the world, and it's just not just because of time constraints, time differences. You really need to lay some groundwork before you start working on a virtual team. So how would you do that? I mean, honestly, think about it maybe and this isn't specific by any means, but think of being a leader of a team where you're pretty much working with people from all over the world. And some of the things you could do before getting into the project to help make things run more smoothly. So anyway, post your answers to the questions, paragraph form, 500 to 600 words, to the discussion area. So you know the routine there as far as the due date. It's really, so you want to make sure to get that done. And for your assignment, it's a research paper. 3 to 5 concepts, a minimum of 1 library source. That doesn't mean that's just one, that's a library. So make sure you're going to the library for at least 1 source, even though I recommend that you just use the library for almost all of your sources. 2 to 3 page paper length requirement. It does not include the title or reference page. And this is the issue that I'm noticing is that I think students are thinking that it's the entire paper. That is not correct. It never includes paper length suggestions. Never include the title or the reference page. That's extra. Describe both the formal and informal communication methods within the organization. Address whether or not the organization uses effective communication techniques. So for this, you're going to go back to your company and evaluate the communication styles and methods that are used. Evaluate the role culture plays in both formal and informal methods of communication, and that's pretty much, the ones that are more strict, hierarchical, more, you know, formal, chain of command, you know, this just, that kind of situation, you're going to have more formal communications. You want to make sure to do some research on that. You know, it just, you know, you usually can see a connection between culture and which one they, you know, which type of method is used. Describe how the organization uses teams. Evaluate the effectiveness of the use of teams based on the model of team effectiveness, described by Daft. Again, I'm so sorry, but every time I talk, I feel like my throat is going to... Anyway. So, sometimes it can be hard to find information on these, and I've already gotten some questions. So what I'm going to do, is go back here to the discussion board, because I'm afraid students aren't seeing this. Maybe some students, or they're just maybe missed the first video. Please review this course-specific database announcement and go to the source. Use it. Follow these directions and go to that site and see if you can find information on your company, because there should be information on all of the companies listed on week 1 there, or it kind of leads to other sources that have information there. So please use this, because I think some students might be getting hung up here where they didn't realize that this was available. It's available. Use it. It should be helpful to you. So I just wanted to stop there and go, you know, while we're talking about where to go, you know, for sources and to get the information. Let me just go back to that. There we go. Please utilize that in the library. If you can find really, you know, sometimes you can find really current articles on these companies at Forbes and Business Week, Wall Street Journal. You know, you can use those as well. I mean, some of this information, you know, you can find in those publications as well. But you still need to use the library. And that course-specific database will take you to library resources. It's just a targeted way of finding resources for the companies listed in this class that you're using, that you know, chose in the first week. Now, the rubric for this is not expanded. It is this right here. We don't have, you know, the clickable, go in there and click break, you know, a larger one. This is what we're using. So when I grade you, this will be in the feedback window with, you know, your actual score and some comments under here. So use this right here as a checklist when you're doing your paper. And remember, 2 to 3 page research paper does not include the title or the reference page. And please make sure to go to the course menu guidelines and review APA format, because when you're writing a paper, a research paper, the paper should be formatted in APA style. So if you go to South University Policies and Guidelines, you can see right there is the APA standards section. Go there and review that sample paper. Kind of model your paper after that. It's very detailed. It's a very great resource. You can download it right there by clicking there. So just wanted to guide, you know, just want you to do the best that you can, and I thought maybe going over those sources we might need a refresher, and that's why I did that. So anyway, if you have any questions or concerns, let me know. I'll be happy to assist you. And make sure that you know, if you have any questions about it, let me know, and I'll be happy to, you know, just, you can even text me. Honestly, texting is the best way to get a hold of me, but is not the only way. You can call, you can email. So, alright, well, let's have a great week. Can't believe this is going by so fast. So, look forward to hearing from you in the discussion threads. Thanks and have a great evening.